So since the start of 2015, test matches have averaged 29.5 runs per wicket. And that's also, of course, when day-night tests started.
This is the last knock. My dad told me to say this.
And in that time, day-night tests have averaged 25.2. That's a fairly big drop, right? Which leads to questions like this. Of course, I'd probably argue that the answer to this is fairly obvious. The wicket and ball are completely different kinds of surfaces, and the skills that you need to be successful in both of those are not really that close to each other. And there are plenty of grounds like this, like playing at Guyana is not like batting at the Basin, right? That is actually just part of Test cricket, going to different places and having to handle different kinds of challenges all the time. And that's even before you think about the historical element of George Lohmann averaged 10.75 bowling on pitches that were, full of actual cow shit. Also bowling on matting wickets. In fact, uncovered, covered and matting wickets were all used interchangeably at times in different places. And also the balls in different places have been used. In fact, in England at one stage, you could pick between two different balls. Test cricket has always been quite different. There's never been a uniform version of it. And to prove that, have a look at how many balls there have been in overs. There's been 4 and 6 and 5 and 8. Not to mention the days that test matches go for. In England, test matches would go for 3 days, and we had timeless tests in other places. Even now we have 3 different companies making test balls, and they're all fairly different to each other. And perhaps the most other telling thing is that we don't have different categories for ODIs that start as day or day-night. We just accept them as both different forms of the same game. Also, any statistician is used to filtering through enough information to find what they need. It's no different than checking someone's home versus away record or someone's Asia versus non-Asia record, right? We do these kinds of things all the time. It's kind of what you're supposed to do when you're looking at stats. And the biggest problem really so far when it comes to day-night tests is that we have not had enough of them. So far, all we know is that they seem to help the bowlers a little bit more, but this is only the 17th. And 6 of them have been in Adelaide, where the groundsman has talked about repeatedly putting extra grass on it to ensure that the ball would last longer, which is not a good sign that we nailed the concept. And I do think the ball is the biggest issue here. The pink ball doesn't play like the red ball. Obviously, what we have found is that the red ball, when it is dyed, actually works better than kind of any other colour. The white ball can't be dyed and has to be painted, and it's absolute dog shit. The pink ball is somewhere between the red and the white ball. I suppose quite literally. And it's also kind of dog shit, but less dog shit. But I'm not going to blame the pink ball for this. In a perfect world, there would have been years and years of research and development into getting the ball right. Lots of companies would have been involved, university studies, all these sorts of things. In truth, Cricket Australia, the MCC and the ICC probably shelled out less than $2 million to test this ball. Probably far less. Even though moving tests from day to day night is $1 billion idea. There's a reason why they call it primetime TV. You get paid more for it. Not to mention that we can get more crowd in for certain games. It just makes a lot more sense. People don't go to see movies during the middle of the day. They go at nighttime, right? And so we have this imperfect ball. And because of that, from time to time, we've also had to change the surface to protect the ball, which again is not really ideal. But in the time that we've had day-night test matches, there's actually been 4 test match venues with a lower average per wicket than those day-night tests. So it's not that day-night test matches are the most impossible place to bat. It's been impossible to bat in lots of different places. And we've also had 2 triple centuries in 17 test matches. If anything, the problem is that because we've only had a handful of matches, people seem to take huge leaps of faith that they know exactly what a day-night pitch is going to do. And I don't think we do know that. When day-night test matches first started, I think everyone thought it's going to be a bit weird because the first session is going to be quite dour because that's played in the middle of the day. And then the next session is going to be the spicy one because that's when the lights and the twilight start to come into play. But when you actually look at the details session by session, it's the first session across all 5 days, when we've got to 5 days, that has been by far the hardest to bat in. In fact, at the moment, the first session is averaging 5 runs less than either of the other 2 sessions, which kind of makes a mockery of the fact that everyone wants to bowl under lights all the time. Also, the first session of day-night tests is averaging less than the actual morning sessions of normal test matches, which again, doesn't quite make a lot of sense. So in 5 of the games, we haven't had 16 runs scored. One of those was the England match in Ahmedabad, where the ball skidded very weirdly for the spinners. Another one was when Sri Lanka travelled to Bridgetown, and both teams just lost a bunch of first session wickets across a couple of different days. Zimbabwe had a double collapse at Port Elizabeth, no matter kind of when they batted. India had their 36 all out in the first session at Adelaide, and Sri Lanka was skittled at the Gabba twice in the first session. So far in 6 of the 17 tests, the two teams combined haven't made it to 600 runs. Those are the very low scoring games. Sri Lanka was skittled twice at the Gabba in the first session, and Bangladesh will roll cheaply at Eden Gardens, also with some first session wickets. The Ahmedabad pitch was a pink ball issue, obviously, but nothing to do with lights or swing, so it's an outlier on this list. But let's just unpack the other ones. Every other low-scoring test, the wickets have fallen in the middle of the day, or should I say, the start of the day, with a ball that everyone can see pretty well at that point. It's not really following cricket thinking, where you would assume that moving the new ball away from the morning moisture would help the batters. But so far, the pink ball in the bright sunshine has been the trickiest thing for the batters to play. That doesn't make that much sense to me, and it certainly doesn't fit the template of taking wickets at twilight or under lights that you hear over and over again. And I wonder just how much of this is small sample size, and the fact that the pink ball moves quite a bit early on, although it shouldn't always be a new ball in every first session outside the first day. It could just be that teams collapse a lot, because teams collapse a lot at the moment, and it's only 17 matches, so it's a bit more than you'd expect. And I've got no doubt that at certain times the pink ball is hard to play. But so is the Dukes, and two nations use that, and that little fucker sometimes swings all day. The pink ball certainly doesn't do that. It doesn't seem that much either. It also doesn't rag anymore when it's spinning. Even the Indian anomaly was more because it didn't spin. And this is a fair tweet from Abhishek as well, because I'm not sure that the ball actually does move that much more under lights. But that's not when the wickets are falling anyway. And I am with Abhishek here. I find it hard to believe that the ball would swing more under lights than it would without it, although I'm happy to be proven wrong. Of course, today, the first ball didn't swing at all. Not to start, not under lights, not with reverse. The second new ball went a long way early on and settled down a bit more like what you would expect from a white ball. So this probably has less to do with the ball under lights and just how some balls swing and others don't. And I know from talking to players that seeing the ball can be tough at twilight. It's weird under lights. But most of the complaints are about like one delivery that they just didn't pick up brilliantly. But a few of the complaints are from the odd delivery. More often it's in the field. You do not want to field at gully in a day-night. And there is no doubt that pink ball day-night tests are different. But that's part of the game, arriving in different parts of the world and having to deal with things that you haven't before. Sometimes the pitch will be weird, others the ball, and if you're really unlucky in a test match, it'll be both. And let's be honest, and we should have been playing day-night test cricket 50 years ago. We shouldn't only have had 17 tests by now. The pink ball, or whatever colour we actually settled on, should be really good at this point. And at least a third of our tests should be day-night. We haven't invested enough money in this. We haven't played enough of these games, and we're not really sure what works and what doesn't. Which is part of the reason some of the previews for this test were just wildly wrong, because people had seen 1 or 2 day-night tests and decided they knew what was going to happen. I don't think we ever know 100% what's going to happen in a day-night test, because they've been so random. And these are the sorts of problems that you get: short sample sizes, inconsistent balls, and grass covering, when you've only half committed to a concept. I mean, we're flirting with day-night tests. We've not even had a proper date yet. It's certainly a long way short of a shag or taking it home to meet your mother. I mean, at the moment, the only thing that we really know about day-night tests is that the pink ball isn't that great, and that sometimes it does weird things and sometimes it doesn't.